everything in your experience in the Earth School serves your spiritual development. Your curriculum in the Earth School is creating authentic power. Authentic power is love. And as we create authentic power, we begin to learn how to identify the frightened parts of our personality, which keep us from seeing clearly, which keep us from experiencing love. So what is love really? Love is much easier to experience than it is to describe. Love is surprising. When you really experience it for the first time, it's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you so grateful. It's going to make you aware in ways that you weren't before. Love is. Fear is an illusion. Creating authentic power, in other words, is moving you in the direction of love. So when you start creating authentic power, you understand that it's a method of challenging fear and cultivating love in yourself. There is nothing that is not love. Love is, period. Welcome back. It's good to be with you again. What is love? This is maybe one of the most used words in English. And amor, amore, whatever the word is in your language, it's used a lot. For example, people say, "Oh, I'd love to see you on Tuesday. Let's get together." But everyone knows that's not love. It's just an expression of openness. What about when you meet someone and you think about them all the time? You can't stop thinking about them. And they want to be that way with you too. Is that love? No, not really. Let's go into that later. Well, what about when you say, "I love my country"? Is that love? Probably not. I mean, for example, I'm American, so there are things about the United States that I really do like. Things about every culture that I really do like, but I wouldn't say I love it. That's because I know more about love than I did before when I might have said things like that. So what is love really? Love is, that's a good place to start. Love is, period. Trying to talk about love is like a fish trying to talk about water. So what is it? Or like a human talking about air, except humans think a lot. And they say, well, air, that's a combination of gases. Gases form in this way and that. Air that we breathe is essentially O2 plus a little bit of nitrogen. But I'm not talking about that. That's not an answer to what is air. Show me air. Where do I buy it? Where can I sell it? It's everywhere. That's the point. So the new consciousness allows us to see things about love that we didn't see before. For example, one of the things that we've talked about is the difference between a part of your personality that originates in love and a part of your personality that originates in fear. The parts that originate in fear are parts that we think of as anger, resentment, jealousy, fear, like fear and trembling. So we say that's definitely not love, because love is the opposite. Love is gratitude, caring, patience, awe of the universe, contentment. So we can say fear is the opposite of love, but that's because we're in the Earth School, and the Earth School is a domain of time and space and matter and duality, which means for every this, there's a that. That's its opposite, every single one. But the most fundamental duality in the Earth School, they can't go any deeper. Most bedrock, this is it. This is the real deal. Duality in the Earth School is love and fear. It all comes down to that. When you talk, when you speak, when you act, is it from love or is it from fear? Well, we've talked in those terms, but that still doesn't say, what is love? Love is surprising. When you experience it, really experience it for the first time, it's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you so grateful. It's going to make you aware in ways that you weren't before. And by the way, I'm talking as though there's a final state in our evolution. There's not. There's no end to evolution, including the evolution of the universe. So what is love? What does love have to do with all of that? It has everything. It is that. Love is that. For example, we'll go back to the analogy of the fish. So it's swimming in the ocean, and now it becomes enlightened in terms of fish in the ocean. And it says, I see it. I'm in it all the time. I can't share it, but everybody knows what it is. It's water. We'll give it a name, water. And then it has another enlightenment, which takes it to another stage of awareness, and it says, oh my gosh, water is the ocean. There's a thing called an ocean, and I'm in the ocean too. Wow. The ocean and I and water, I'm seeing it all. It's all love. Everywhere I go, I can't see. Look, there's starfish, there's sharks, there's coral reefs, there's whales. Ooh, what's that? Oh, it's a big ship overhead. That's here too. That's part of the ocean. All of that. Well, I'm having a hard time describing it. Love is much easier to experience than it is to describe. In fact, it can't be described, but I'm going to keep trying. And I'll tell you why. Because I once asked a teacher of mine who was describing something, and he's saying, but from your perspective, you won't be able to understand this. And I said, well, if I can't understand it, why are you explaining it to me? And he said, because if you consider it, considering it opens the possibility of its existence. And the possibility of its existence enables you to search for it and experience it. There is nothing that is not love. Love is. I told you in the podcast before this one, which, by the way, we use the word for, before, after, during, while. From the perspective in which you will truly begin to experience love, at least at the state that you are at that time. You see how difficult this is. But I'll keep going. When I say there's nothing that's not love, you might say, well, wait a minute. What about that traffic accident that crippled my friend? For the rest of his life, he's going to be in a wheelchair. That's love? Yes, that's love. And it's not the popular tough love. No, the universe isn't tough and soft. It is. It's love. Everything that happens to you, everything that you experience in the Earth School has a purpose. And that purpose is your spiritual development. So even your friend who's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life has a learning opportunity that he didn't have before. And that can take him places that he might not have gone before. Eventually, he'll wind up at the same place, love. So, in the last episode, or the last Soul Feast, we talked about clarity. Clarity being love. And contrasting that with obscuration, lack of clarity, and that being fear. And the way that you get to clarity is to find and remove in yourself everything that obscures love, the experience of love. This is the creation of authentic power. This is what we return to and will always return to. Why? Because with a new consciousness, we begin to see that our purpose for being in the Earth School is not merely to survive. We were a five-sensory species that evolved by surviving and survived by pursuing the old understanding of power, manipulation, and control. Now we are a multi-sensory species. We're no longer limited to the perceptions of the five senses. That's the new consciousness. we evolve by growing spiritually, and we grow spiritually by creating authentic power, which is the new potential of the new consciousness. And as we create authentic power, we begin to learn how to identify the frightened parts of our personality, which keep us from seeing clearly, which keep us from experiencing love. Now, love is the loving parts of our personality, the parts that originate in love, we experience as gratitude or appreciation, not for getting something that you want, but for being alive. Love is contentment, patience, awe of the universe. What do I mean by awe of the universe? I used to live around a great mountain, Mount Shasta in Northern California. People who study mountains, people who climb mountains might say, well, it's just another 14,000 foot summit in the United States. There's 20 of them or more. No, but if you really have a relationship with a mountain, it's a great mountain. It tells you things. Not every mountain, but every mountain is awesome. Like the ocean is awesome. And at twilight, every night when the sun was out and the clouds were not out, the mountain and the snow on it would begin to turn pink. And then it would start to glow. It's called alpenglow. And then it would turn radiant, radiating pink. And then it would go from there into shades of violet and then purple. And then at last, darkness when you could see the stars. And I would watch that happen sometimes. And afterwards, not during, but afterwards, I notice the thing that I love about that experience is that I disappeared in it. I couldn't tell the difference between the mountain and me, the mountain that I was in awe of. Same thing happened once. I was on Maui, which is a Hawaiian island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And on this particular island, the waves are very gentle, if there are waves at all. There's always some waves, but they're gentle compared to some of the big waves. At least in my part of Maui, there's big waves there too. And once Linda and I arrived after a storm, a great storm, and the waves were pounding on the beach. Kapoom! 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 Oh my God, you could feel the sand shaking underneath you. I'd never seen waves like that. And while I was looking at them, afterwards, I could realize while I was looking at them, I couldn't tell the difference. There were the waves. What was wave and what was Gary? It was the happening. It was. Well, that feeling of not being able to distinguish between the experience and the experiencer, between what's experienced and what experiences it, when that's complete, you might say, you disappear. And in that place is nothing but what you are. And it's magnificent. It takes a physical form in the examples that I'm talking about. That's love. Love is. Fear is an illusion. Creating authentic power, in other words, is moving you in the direction of love. Authentic power is love. So when you start creating authentic power, at least as I did, you understand that it's a method of challenging fear and cultivating love in yourself. And you're developing tools to do this, such as emotional awareness, responsible choice, and consulting intuition. There's only 3 tools in creating authentic power. And as you again and again and again create authentic power by experiencing, using your emotional awareness to experience frightened parts of your personality in terms of physical sensations in your body, you can begin to step back a little bit from that experience and realize that experience is not coming from the unchangeable ground of your being. It's coming from a part of your personality. And you've got quite a few parts of your personality. And some originate in love and some originate in fear. In other words, in this process, you begin to create a space, a gap between this part of your personality and you. And in that gap, you can do something that you couldn't do before. You can choose consciously. Before, in the old consciousness, you became angry and you shouted. You became jealous and you withdrew. You became sad and you wept. And you didn't know the difference between a part of your personality and what it was feeling and what you are and are feeling. The new consciousness changes all of that. We can tell the difference between a part of our personality that we're experiencing in the moment and other parts. And if it's coming from fear, we can use that distance to challenge it. And that's creating authentic power. That's what I've explained several times. And I'll explain it some more too, because it's lovely to explain. And it is now our evolutionary modality. To experience consciously a frightened part of your personality, never to suppress, repress, or deny an emotion, but to experience it in your energy processing centers, your chakras, in terms of physical sensations. And when it's a frightened part of your personality, put your attention, use your willpower, your free will, your volition to move your attention into a loving part of your personality, like some that I was describing, or simply, nothing is simple once you begin to see it, and yet it is simple. I know that's sounding a little Zen, but, well, that's the way I'm experiencing it. Once you choose to speak and act from the loving part of your personality while you're experiencing the frightened part, that's creating authentic power. And as you do, the frightened part of your personality begins to lose its control over you. You're not trying to change it, embrace it, celebrate it, surrender to it. No. You are striving and you are using, as you create authentic power, your will, your intention to move beyond the control of the frightened parts of your personality. And as you do that, the loving parts of your personality naturally begin to fill more of the field of your awareness, and they become naturally attractive to you. And it's easier to cultivate them. At first, cultivating them means taking note of them, showing yourself that this experience of connectedness was not a temporary, ephemeral experience that happened yesterday. This is the experience of a loving part of my personality. It's real, and I will cultivate it consciously by going back to it and remembering it and entering it when I'm challenging a frightened part. And as you do that, you move yourself toward love, step by step, choice by choice, creation by creation. Your curriculum in the Earth School is creating authentic power. Authentic power is love. Everything that happens to you helps you move in that direction. Let me give you an example of love that's pretty clear if you even think about it. Nothing in the Earth School does not serve your spiritual development, or without the negatives, everything in your experience in the Earth School serves your spiritual development. Before you learn how to create authentic power, you were controlled by internal dynamics that perpetuate themselves indefinitely, unconsciously. These are the frightened parts of your personality: anger, fear, resentment, competition, superiority, inferiority. And replacing those dynamics, which we're calling frightened parts of your personality, with other parts, other dynamics that perpetuate themselves consciously. This is the new consciousness that allows us to do this, and is the new consciousness at the same time. In other words, most people have lived their lives, and many lives, whether they're aware of other lives or not, whether that's just been a Eastern thing, reincarnation, or it's a real thing. It's your life, however you look at it. And if it's not conscious, you're creating with fear. And if you're not Conscious of creating with fear, you're creating painful consequences, and you're experiencing them, and then reacting with fear again until you inject consciousness at the point of choice. And as you do, you become able to move beyond the control of the frightened parts of your personality. And as you do this again and again, you begin to see more through the lens of love. And then it's not just seeing that everything in the earth school serves your spiritual growth, even those things that seem horrible, that seem so painful, that seem... Have you ever wanted to shake your fist at heaven and say, is there a God? Is there? What are you doing? I have. I was so angry. I was a paratrooper. I was a Green Beret officer, and that was even before then. And I was addicted to sex. That's what it feels like to live in fear. Although you may be experiencing fear differently, you may experience it as never being able to express yourself, always being talked over, can't be a presence in the world. And then you're always pleading to something, to a divinity, to another person. Help me feel better. Help me be alive and vital. Help me have a passion and a purpose in life. All of that serves your spiritual development. Even when you were creating with fear unconsciously, you were creating powerfully. And all of it served your spiritual development. Even though none of the things that you created were conscious or constructive, they all served your spiritual growth. Look at that whole picture. Then do more than that. Feel that whole picture. You are pointing yourself toward love now. Here's a simple way to do it. Have you ever planted a flower and it comes out of the ground, and then there's petals that bloom come out as the flower blooms, and you'll notice that flower tracks the sun. As the sun moves in the sky, so does the flower. What's it tracking? It's tracking the sun. It's drawn to the sun as light, as life. I have a suggestion for you. Here's a soul step that you can take. When you track something, don't let it be fame or sense of self-worth or someone else to solve your problems or make you feel better. Track meaning. Follow your sense of meaning. What gives you a sense of fulfillment and purpose? Track that. That's your soul step for this soul feast. And that alone is a feast. How much meaning is in your life? You're going to find out when you take this soul step. How much fear is in your life? It'll surprise you, because as people start to create authentic power and become aware through emotional awareness, the first thing they become aware of is fear, and it hurts. But you're on the path to awareness, and more than that, awareness with intention. The intention to move beyond fear, the intention to cultivate love. And then you'll find out that all of that, not find out, that's left over from the intellect. You will experience the awe of the Earth School. How do you experience love? The intellect can never grasp it. Joy expresses it. You cannot be in joy or experience joy when you're in fear. So if you're thinking about that soulmate that you've got to be with, if you're thinking about that ambition you've got to fulfill, if you're thinking about, that's not love. If it's not joyful, it's not love. Then think of the things that give you joy. Maybe it's a child, your own perhaps. Maybe it's someone who loved you. And you'll see that joy and meaning are not different. Let's talk about that on another podcast. In the meanwhile, know that you are blessed. And this might be a surprise to you, that you're a blessing. But you are. See you next time. I'm Gary Zukav.